About this revised edition. The writings of Dr. John Gill remain among the most substantial and carefully reasoned theological works ever produced within the Calvinistic Baptist tradition. Yet for many modern readers, the older forms of English, lengthy sentence structures, and literary style of the 18th century can make sustained reading difficult, especially for students, younger readers, and those for whom English is not their first language. This revised edition has therefore been prepared in order to make Gill's theology more accessible to contemporary readers, while carefully preserving the doctrinal substance, theological terminology, scriptural argumentation, and Calvinistic conviction of the original author. Particular care has been taken to preserve the theological accuracy and the text, the Authorized Version, King James Version, scriptures, quotations, the structure of Gill's arguments, and the reverent tone of the original work. The purpose of this edition is not to replace Gill's original writings, but rather to assist readers to understand and studying them more easily. The original historical editions of Gill's works remain available for those who wish to consult the text in its original 18th century form. In addition to the revised language, this edition includes structured study questions and educational material designed to assist students, pastors, Bible students, theological training schools, prison ministries, and churches in the systematic study of Christian doctrine and the doctrines of grace. The work continues theological and missionary labour that has for many years included the printing, distribution, audio recording and teaching of Dr. Gill's writings among Christian students and churches, particularly in the Philippines. Readers wishing to consult the original historical editions and related theological resources may do so through the ministry website www.beartonparticularbaptist.co.uk. It is hoped that this revised edition may encourage careful theological study, strengthen believers in the doctrines of grace, and help preserve sound biblical teaching for future generations. Presentation and dedication. This revised edition of Dr. John Gill's body of doctrinal and practical divinity is presented and dedicated to the students, pastors, teachers, and churches associated with Christ-centered churches, ministries, Philippines, under the pastoral care of Bishop William Ola Pollock, Sr. This work first arose out of the missionary labours connected with prison ministry in the Philippines and the theological training that followed. Over the years, Dr. Gill's writings have been printed, distributed, read aloud, and studied among ministers and students seeking a deeper understanding of the doctrines of grace and the great truths of the Christian faith. The earlier edition was prepared chiefly for practical use and wide distribution among churches and Bible students, especially those with limited access to theological libraries and formal ministerial training. In the interest of economy and accessibility, certain features of the original works, including sections of Greek, Hebrew, and Latin, were omitted. This new edition has a different purpose. For while carefully preserving the doctrinal integrity, theological precision, and Calvinistic convictions of Dr. Gill, the language is being revised into clearer and more readable modern English so that contemporary readers may more easily follow his arguments and teaching without losing the depth and substance of the original work. Secondly, particular care has been taken to preserve theological terminology, retain the Authorized Version, scriptural quotations, maintaining doctrinal accuracy, and present the material in a form suitable for both serious study and devotional reading. Thirdly, study questions and structured reading material are being added in order to assist students, ministers, Bible schools and churches in the careful study of systematic theology and the doctrines of grace. The aim of this edition is not to alter Gill's doctrine, but rather to remove unnecessary barriers caused by older forms of English, lengthy sentence structures and difficult reading flow, while preserving the strength, reverence and theological clarity of the original author. It is hoped that this edition may serve future generations of Christians in the same spirit in which the earlier editions were distributed, namely for the advancement of biblical truth, the defence of the doctrines of grace, and the instruction of believers in the Holy Scriptures. A brief history of the Philippine mission. Pastor William Ola Pollock Sr. was released from New Bilibid prison in August 2002, having completed theological studies during his imprisonment. Following his release, he returned to Baguio City together with his wife, with the assistance of David Clark, the founder of Trojan Horse International, Tulip Incorporated. In December 2002, baptisms were conducted among the inmates in Baguio City Jail and Benguet Provincial Jail, together with several others who profess faith in the Lord Jesus Christ. After David Clark returned to the United Kingdom in 2003, the work in the Philippines continued to develop. A burden arose to establish a church within the city in order to reach families, relatives, local communities and former inmates still imprisoned in New Bilibid prison. By the grace of God, Christ-centered church ministries was established and gradually expanded throughout the Philippines. Over time, churches were planted, Bible training developed, prison ministries expanded, and students were trained for Christian ministry. The work eventually included Christ-centered churches, theological training ministries, prison ministries, radio ministry, and missionary outreach throughout the archipelago. To God alone be the glory. Personal note from the editor. This revised edition continues work that began many years earlier through the missionary labours, theological teaching and distribution of Christian literature among churches and students in the Philippines. It also coincides with more than 50 years since the conversion of David Clark on the 16th of January 1971. The doctrinal foundations reflected throughout this edition remain those historically maintained by the Bearton Particular Baptist and wider Calvinistic Baptist tradition represented in the writings of Dr. John Gill.